We'll get to American football in a second. But first, World Cup. I'm going to have to talk about it. The men's U.S. team drew 30 million viewers on Fox. And another 14 million on Telemundo via Peacock. It was the most watched soccer telecast in U.S. history. Is America a soccer country now? It's a legit question. This is the most anyone in America has been this much into World Cup. Based on the numbers, based on my own personal experience, it's the most I've ever been to it. It's the most I've talked to other people in passing who were never a fan of any kind of soccer, and they have opinions about the players and the teams, and they're talking about red cards and all kinds of things. It's never been this way before. So did something change is what I'm pondering here, because it changed in me and it changed in plenty of others. Telemundo was the place to watch for me because I have Peacock, so I just opened it up and there it was. And I went, yeah, let's do this. Even though it's not great for learning Spanish or learning the game of soccer. They're against each other. So I didn't really pick up much Spanish and I didn't really understand the game. My fault. But it is so much fun on Telemundo. Those announcers are just fun. I think a lot of people, I've seen numbers, a lot of people who don't speak Spanish were watching it on Telemundo just because the announcers are so much fun. It does not help you learn the game at all. But, I mean, not just the goal, but also, it's also commercial free, as apparently nature intended it. If you watch it on Fox or others, you're getting commercials during the Pausa de Hydration, which we celebrate in my house. My wife and I, it's on the background. She's kind of watching. And every time they would pause for that, we're like, hydration, yay, pausa de hydration. How do you say it? It was fun. It was something to cheer for. And you didn't have, Celexa ads or something. Still a little confused on timing. I figured it out a little. I had to go use Gemini and ask some questions. Offsides is still a mystery. I'm getting there, though. But I legitimately went from watching 0 games to 8 games. That's a lot, especially when you don't speak the language. So, and what I've decided is I think it's, for me, a little more similar to Olympic hockey, which is to say, I don't watch much outside NFL. And that's not like, I'm American, we only do blah, blah, blah. No, I've tried to get into college football, NHL, various other sports, and they're usually, it just doesn't stick. And a lot of it has to do with I don't understand the rivalries, and I don't have a home team of my own. I'll pick a team, but it doesn't mean anything. I'm not emotionally invested from the jump. So with Olympic hockey, I found out I liked it quite a bit. Because just like World Cup, countries. Even if you're American, you understand there are other countries. And you can at least wrap your brain around Cuba versus Bhutan or whatever. I don't know who all has teams. Seems like a lot. So that's what I've decided. Is it's more similar to Olympic hockey because I can get into the countries and therefore I can get into the World Cup itself, not soccer, because I tried Premier League, didn't go so well. I tried to be a fan of Luton Town, and it kept waking me up on my phone, like, hey, there's a game right now, and I'm sleeping. So I'm not emotionally invested quite yet. The U.S. team was, it's not that competitive with the rest, unfortunately. They just get out-hustled constantly. But that can change over time as the country gets more into it as well. So, surprise, surprise. I think I am a filthy casual when it comes to World Cup. Oh, Welcome to Shut Up Football. I am Jeff Stoltzfus. That is Kevin. It is Thursday. It is another Thursday live stream. Today we are talking about it has been a very bad year for Matt Miller. Brandon Aiyuk continues to lose his mind in a public forum. Nick Saban's thoughts on NIL in college football. The Broncos aren't listening to Sean Payton. And who said pass to Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding? Some of you may have just inverted your butthole on that, but that's okay. We'll get through it quickly, and trust me, it will be slightly interesting. And then also, the heat of the meat here is fringe running backs for fantasy, specifically for your dynasty leagues, because we're going to be talking about players outside of the top 32. Who's worth investing in, who's still a hold, and who is probably time to sunset or cut. There's a lot of them. There's a whole bunch. And luckily, other people have ranked them in tiers for us. And I have named those tiers. So we'll get through that. That will be fun too, because I have strong thoughts about a lot of those guys. And you may disagree. And that's where the fun lies, I guess. But first,
I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
Yeah, Matt Miller, this won't be a fun one. I will not make any jokes about this one. Matt Miller has had a very rough year so far. If you're unfamiliar, hey, who's that? Because he's not a player or a coach. An NFL draft analyst for ESPN. But he's been around for years. He's actually been floated as the eventual Mel Kiper replacement. It seems like they were kind of building him that way. He was involved in a car crash in June. He drifted on the line for whatever reason. I don't know all the details of all of this stuff yet, but he hit a semi. And then he had to have a life-saving amputation to his left arm. So that arm is now gone, and that is very sad. He's 42 years old. He has 2 kids, I believe. And that in and of itself was sad news for anyone, but especially, a father. I felt bad for him. He seemed like, his career was climbing, and now this bad situation happens. Unfortunately, that's just the beginning, because just a few weeks later, he is now under investigation by the Missouri Attorney General, according to USA Today and others. He's been accused of financial improprieties by numerous people on social media. It's not just one. They're coming out of the woodwork. The AG actually reached out and said, hey, anybody who has a story or needs to tell us something, come join the party. They probably didn't say party. That would be rude. So, and this was also picked up by Awful Announcing, which, funny enough, is a real place. They do good work. So the problem here is that people are saying they failed to receive payments for winning fantasy football leagues, which is already bad enough, but also camps, and there were scouting lessons that he was supposed to be giving or did give. There's a lot of money that is, I don't want to say missing. I don't know all the details, but he's being accused of fraud, basically. He had a GoFundMe set up after his injury. People just started raising their hands and going, wait. Money for you? About my money you owe me. And maybe that sounds a little rude too, considering the situation, but it kind of seems like a bigger deal. It's not just 1 or 2 fantasy leagues. So his GoFundMe has since been paused. We will watch this as it unfolds. I have no jokes, no opinions, no anything on this. I'm just telling you what's out there. And it's sad for Matt Miller, because up until now, I would have said he seemed like a decent guy. And now we just don't know. That's basically it. What we do know is that Brandon Aiyuk is continuing to destroy his career. So remember when Brandon Aiyuk was dropping hints, not so subtle hints, that he wanted to play for the Commanders? There was a Jaden Daniels connection. It just made sense. He clearly didn't want to play for the 49ers, doesn't want to play for the 49ers. Well, that's over. Aiyuk has now posted videos about Commanders quarterback Jaden Daniels, where he was he rational? Was he complimentary? or was he batshit crazy? You win. It was the latter. Jaden Daniels has since unfollowed him on Instagram, which I think is how World War II started. This all feels very familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't this feel all very Antonio Brown end of career-ish? It does to me. So Brandon Aiyuk has basically locked his career in a steamer trunk and dropped it in the ocean. It's gone. And the saga is not over yet. He still has not petitioned the league for reinstatement. Strangely enough, after all that, he still hasn't actually filed paperwork. It's kind of like the Capone, how he went out through tax evasion or whatever. The paperwork is what got him, not the crazy rants and all the videos on social media. So there is a September 1st deadline for that, and there's $24 million hanging in the ether pending on that, whether or not he does that. So, and if he does that, I think he's supposed to go right back to the 49ers, which he doesn't want, they don't want. I don't know. There's another deadline coming is the point, September 1st. So enjoy your summer and just know that he's not, and that there's more info to come on this one. So meanwhile, Nick Saban wants Congress to bring order to college football, which would be nice because Congress should definitely bring some order somewhere, anywhere. So why not college football? So what is this all about? It's same thing it's always about. Money. But this time it's NIL money. So Saban spoke to several U.S. senators last month. He said Alabama's NIL collective surged from $2.7 million to $24 million in just a few years. He says the system is drifting towards a professional model. And I don't know that I like Nick Saban, so I'd love to dunk on him, but maybe there is some good stuff in here. It is a bipartisan bill they've got here. He was endorsing the Protect College Sports Act, which, kind of a dopey name. They always name stuff. Everything is Saving the World, America Act. And this one was written in part by Ted Cruz, for whatever that's worth. But he was not the only one. So, like I said, it was bipartisan, which is nice these days. Also, there was Notre Dame's athletic director who spoke to them, and the Pac-12 commissioner, Teresa Gold, and more. So, according to ESPN, this would provide the NCAA with an antitrust exemption to enforce rules that have been challenged in court already. Kind of wonder if some of those rules have anything to do with Brandon Sorsby, but probably not. So limiting athletes to transferring schools only one time without penalty. So I guess they could still do it. They just get a penalty. Maybe a tattoo of Nick Saban's face on their face. Limiting athlete eligibility to a maximum of 5 years, which that does make sense to me. And I thought they already did that. I thought they already passed something just a month ago that was basically getting rid of redshirting. Or maybe this is to stack on top of that. But sure, that's fine with me. We don't need people playing 6 years in college just to play, especially if they're just doing it to get NIL money. Sure, the NFL would support such a bill as well, too, because they're not too thrilled about NIL and college guys staying in school longer. Good for them, of course, a lot of them, because they won't make it at the pro level. But there does have to be a cap at some point, I think, for schools and the people who are donating. This would also prohibit former professional athletes from playing in college. Yeah, surprised that's not already somewhere on the books. Bo knows USC. Prohibiting schools from poaching a coach from another school during their sports season. And that does sound pretty fair. Cruz called it the Lane Kiffin rule, referring to LSU's hiring of Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss in November. Sure. Saban said the bill isn't perfect, which I assume means he's read it, which is nice, unlike the Terrion Arnold list of charges, which he penned a character reference for just last week. Moving on, Broncos. A little nugget popped out. I don't know how old this is. It just popped up in the news, and I thought it was interesting, so I wanted to share. But I have to assume that it was probably talked about months ago. The Broncos didn't listen to their coach, is my little heading. Last year's playoff game between the Bills and the Broncos, which I'm sure many Bills fans remember. Sean Payton revealed that in overtime on 4th and 11, so very early on, I think, too, he called a fake punt at their own 38-yard line, and the team did not run it. I guess he called it, and not just out of the blue. They had been looking, they had been studying fake punts, and they found one they liked, and he thought the situation merited it, and he called it, and the players got to the line and changed it, and then punted the ball, which was the right move. It was a special fake punt play that he got from the Raiders. Can't go wrong there. Nothing but good things coming out of that facility these days. Broncos called theirs the Rutgers special because it was supposed to, I guess the ball was supposed to go to Michael Burton, who went to Rutgers. So the idea basically here was that Sean Payton was more afraid of not picking up a 4th and 11 on their own 38. He was preferring that. He was preferring going for that over giving the ball back to Josh Allen. This is basically fear. He was terrified of giving the ball back to Josh Allen because he thought Josh Allen is definitely going to score, which is a rational concern. Although what really unfolded was Josh Allen threw an interception, and then the Broncos kicked a field goal and won. If they had not picked up the 4th and 11, if they had been 1 yard short, they would have given the ball to the Bills right there within field goal range. Although maybe he's seen previous Bills games with field goals and he still felt strong about it. So anyway, but imagine, if you will, that would be then if they would have done that and not picked it up, we would have had Bills versus the Patriots the next round. And the Bills were certainly capable of winning that, which means they would have gone to the Super Bowl. We would have had our Josh Allen Bills Super Bowl right there in front of us, not even specifically because of anything that he or they did, but because Sean Payton was afraid. And I do find that interesting. Maybe they would have even won, but I shouldn't go there. There's already tables breaking. Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are married. Whew. Finally. We can all stop worrying about that. Love won. Hooray, love. Who was invited, and out was much more interesting because Will Compton, who is presumably friends with Travis Kelce, was not invited, and he kind of lost his shit. He was pissed that everybody else from Tight End University except him apparently was invited, which I don't know what's going on there, but it would certainly make me wonder if I'm a big giant douchebag. That does say something about you, right? You're the only one who did not get invited. Well, Taylor Lewan was also not invited, though I don't know that they're close. So basically, Bussin' with the Boys is now bitching with the boys because they're complaining about it. They kind of really lost their shit when they saw Dean Blandino was invited. The Fox Rules analyst was invited and they weren't. There's like 1,000+ people at this thing. They preferred Dean Blandino. Maybe there was something to go over. So the thing is, quite a few Fox people were invited. Tom Brady, Kevin Burkhardt, which makes me wonder, has he been having conversations with, talking to Fox people? Is this maybe where he ends up later after his playing days are over, which I think is coming very soon? But he also had 3 of the Good Morning America anchors there too, so maybe it means a big fat nothing. Charles Barkley was also invited, but declined, stating, "I don't go to weddings or funerals. I appreciate the invite, but I don't want to dress up and all that other stuff." Charles gets it. I had no idea that Charles Barkley was my spirit animal. I, too, don't want to dress up and go places and do things, much to my wife's chagrin. But let's move on to Fringe running backs. Let's get to the fringies. After I do a quick health check here of the live stream. Huh. Which is showing me strange things. Sorry, I had all kinds of problems today. Light didn't work, camera didn't work, thumbnail wouldn't upload. So I'm just curious if we are actually live. I'm not filled with confidence looking at this YouTube right now. What does that mean? All right. I'm going to trust you, YouTube. We know that's going to go far. All right, let's move on to these fringe running backs. Sorry to waste your time. All right, so what we're looking at today, let me make it a wee more punchy for you. Let's take a look here. Oh, no. All right, so what we are looking at here today is I want to find guys outside the top 32. 32 in specific because there are 32 teams. So presumably everybody's starter, in theory, would be in that top 32. And what we're looking at here is guys who are either backups or I'm not going to go through the rookies. I'm just going to tell you that now. I do so much rookie stuff during the draft season. I'm looking for people who already have been in the league and maybe we have questions about. We don't have questions about rookies that anyone can really answer yet. We can project, we can make guesses, but I think we have data on these people in the NFL. And so what I'm looking at here, what you're looking at here, if you can see this because you're watching this on YouTube and not listening on Spotify or something, although you could also watch there, it's a video podcast on there, is a tier-based system from Fantasy Pros. Take that for what it's worth, but honestly, I looked through it already. I don't really disagree. I mean, if you're off by 1 or 2 spots, who cares? Who cares? So we're going to go and drop. This is, we're looking at tier 4 here. They go down to number 26 with David Montgomery. We jump into tier 5. And that's where things get a little iffy in terms of starterage because they already have RJ Harvey at 27, which would in theory maybe mean he's a starter. And that we don't know. We don't know. But what we're going to do is I'm not going to go over every single one because that would be a little boring and take forever. I've picked people that I think that we should talk about. And let's go to my first guy, which is Kenneth Gainwell. Let's make sure he's on screen because that's just good YouTubing. There you go. Oh, he's right there. Number 37. Hooray. All right. So, and I know there's a little heat on Kenny Boy. I still call him Kenny Gainwell. But let's take a look at him. So, 27 years old. He's had 5 seasons of rushing here. And I think it's important to look at this because he had 4 seasons with the Eagles and then 1 to the Steelers. And there is quite a change here. There was the perception of Kenneth Gainwell. No one do him dirty. Kenneth Gainwell, while he was with the Eagles, there was the perception of him last year with the Steelers, and now people feel a different way about him. And you got to find the context to understand that because he didn't just suddenly change. First of all, he was very good when he came out from college. I know he's a slightly undersized guy, but he was probably my 3rd favorite running back that year. If you look at his rushing total, with the Eagles the first 4 years, 291, 240, 364, 290, and then he goes to the Steelers and it jumps up to 537. So it's a big boost. It's best in his career. Plus, he had another, it's down here somewhere, a bunch of yards through the air too, because he's a good receiving back. So his average rushing yards per game went from basically 18 with the Eagles to 31 with the Steelers. Mind you, he was in a timeshare even with the Steelers for the most part. I know he filled in for Warren when there was injury, but for the most part, he's always been in a timeshare. And he'll probably always be in a timeshare, even though he does have some lead back qualities. He just doesn't have huge size, but neither really does Bucky Irving. And that's exactly where he went, to the Bucks, in case you forget. So that's usage. That's roughly an 82% increase in usage from the Eagles to the Steelers. And his yards per carry went from 4.2 to 4.7, which is really pretty good. Not just that it went up, but considering it went from the Eagles front line when it was healthy and good to the Steelers, which has been, I don't know where they rank, but I know the perception has been iffy at times. That's why they drafted a first-round lineman. His receptions more than doubled, and that's where a lot of the value comes in. 73 receptions, 486 yards last year receiving. And he's always been good. I contend he's always been good. But he might be peaking now, at least in terms of opportunity. And he's certainly not on the decline. So he is absolutely somebody that I think you probably should invest in. He's got another 2 to 3 years of goodness here. And the only thing in front of him with the Bucks is Bucky Irving. But how much is he in front of him? Because Bucky Irving, though he is also very good, probably better. He's amazed me so far what he's done in the league. But we could be looking at a 50-50 split here or something very close to that. In my opinion, I do not think this is going to be a 70-30 or anything like that. I think you're going to get a lot of opportunities for Kenneth Gainwell. And if there's the perception, a lot of people aren't going to want to give up Bucky Irving, you might be able to get Kenneth Gainwell for not an arm and a leg. And it will be worth it. Maybe as worth it as Bucky Irving. If you could get similar numbers for cheaper, why wouldn't you? So that's Kenneth Gainwell. Let's drop down a wee bit. And the next one in this tier that I want to talk about is J.K. Dobbins. And again, this is all about perception. Nobody wants Dobbins in fantasy or in Dynasty right now. He's not that old. He's only 27 years old, but you know the deal. With great J.K. Dobbins comes great injury responsibility. He is just perpetually stuck in an iron lung. He's got all this injury history. Now he has, last year, R.J. Harvey came in, I think, as a second-round pick. Jonah Coleman's got tons of heat on him this year. He's drafted in. But in theory, if he is healthy, much like he started last year, I still think he is the starter here. It's going to be committee. There's going to be people in and out. All three of them are going to play. But J.K. Dobbins probably gets first and down work. He gets the first crack. And we're talking about even a first and down running back for a team in a committee. We're talking number 39 here on their list, tier 5 for potential starting running back. And I think most of that just has to do with the injury, nothing to do with his ability. You know, this is a guy that you could get 10 to 15 points easily every single week that he's not injured. That's the caveat. But, I mean, for a team that might have a star running back, maybe you have a Saquon or somebody at one spot to win you a week maybe versus all the other guys. You got your wide receivers, and they're awesome, and then you got one great running back, and then you always got that second running back spot where sometimes things are a little iffy and you're not sure. They have peaks, they have valleys. J.K. Dobbins could be sitting right there if you need him for as long as he's healthy with decent points to help you just get through. And that's what I think he is. That's what he is. If he stays healthy, he's in the driver's seat. His last injury, his latest injury, was November. So he's already had surgery. He is back to healthy again. Last year, before the injury, he had 772 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns. Okay? He was averaging about 15 rushes a game, and he was getting 5 yards per carry. He was good. He was legit good. And you've got that confidence that Sean Payton at least was starting him and trusted him. You know, it's not like he's on a new team with a new coach or whatever. He's now shown enough for them. Now, the case for J.K. Dobbins, I will admit, is paper thin for Dynasty because it's just for this year. That's it. So he's never going to win you a week, and he's probably never going to lose you a week unless that's the week he gets injured. So you could be getting 10 to 15 points every week, and he's a perfect one to trade for. I traded for money where my mouth is in my deep dynasty league because I have a lot of young running backs, people who haven't yet flashed or shown their true value, and it might take all year for them to do so. So I need somebody in there now. And so I went to the J.K. Dobbins owner and was like, here's 2 pennies, rub them together and make a fire. And he said, yeah. So, like I said, no one wants him. So it was pretty easy to get him in Dynasty. The thing you just have to swallow is, you're never going to get whatever you give away for him back. So just keep that in mind. And also don't forget that even though Dynasty, it's sexy to go for all the young people, a lot of these young guys never pay off. You do need a handful of vets that are just going to get you some points every year. And I think that's one to go after. So I'm in on J.K. Dobbins. Last one in this particular tier is Ja'Cory Karosky-Merritt for the Commanders, or Bill, as sometimes announcers love to call him. Last year, he had 805 yards, 8 touchdowns, and he was still kind of disappointing. Now, I was a Bill fan going into the year. I drafted him in my deep dynasty last year, well before they ever said Brian Robinson was traded. And it was just simply, it was the back end of my dynasty draft, and I just kept watching his tape, and I just kept watching his tape. Like, it was like a good movie. I just kind of I kept coming back to it. There was just something about it. And the fact that he had missed his final year at college due to an eligibility issue just kind of made sense, maybe why he dropped so far in the draft. I was like, screw it. Lottery pick is what I said in my head. I didn't say the wrong thing in my head because my head knows what's up. Now, once Brian Robinson was traded, everyone thought that he would get the run. Like, he was getting some camp heat. So everyone's like, all right, he's going to be first in. This is going to be his show now. We got ourselves a new Isaiah Pacheco situation here. But he kind of disappeared there for a while. He came out. He didn't do well for a while. He disappeared. He came back, and then he kind of broke out a few big gains, and they're like, all right, maybe we should give the kid more opportunities. But there were only about 4 to 5 games where you actually really wanted to start him last year. He had single-digit rushing attempts in 8 weeks and topped 100 yards in only 2 games. He had 13 targets all season. So he did okay for a rookie, but still, like I said, it was disappointing. I was disappointed. I think most people who picked him up, especially if by the time Brian Robinson was gone, your draft came around and everyone's hyping him up as the lead running back, and then he disappears more than half the season, it would have felt like a lost pick. So either you got in early before the hype was there and you were getting whatever you could, or you felt like it was kind of a bust. Now, he's 25 years old. That's another, I don't want to say strike, but let's remember, even though he's only in his second season now, he's not 22 or whatever. So JCM will have a chance to lead this committee this year. That much I still am confident about, but the committee has changed. So I think it's going to remain fluid all season, to be honest. He will have first crack at being the first and second down back, and he has home run ability. He really can break it out and get to another gear. He does have that potential. Then you've got Rachaad White, who will be getting the receiving work mostly, and he's not quite dead yet, and maybe he can find a little more something on a new team, but he's not going to be the lead back either. And then you've got Katron Allen, 6th round pick, I believe, and he will get into the mix as well. So it's a committee. You're hoping Bill can lead that committee as first and second down, running back, and also break out here and there for big, long gains or touchdowns along the way. If any of that happens, he's a good guy to have. I understand why he's in this tier. However, that being said, I'm actually pretty low on Bill. Because up until now, since he's been there, their GM, Adam Peters, has, I want to say, devalued the position. Not a huge fan They don't put a lot of capital into the position. Even so, they drafted 7th round guy, drafted 6th round guy. They get rid of the running back they had. They bring in Rashad White for like $1 million or $2 million. Like, it's a cheap deal. He just doesn't put a lot into the committee. He just seems to be throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. So that could continue to be the case moving forward, or it depends on how their season goes, because though the current Commanders owner doesn't seem like a D-bag, he's also new to it, and I wonder at some point if he were to try and put his thumb on the position and say, look, dude, enough of this nonsense. We need some help in the run game. If he doesn't feel it's there, he could push Peters to actually invest in the position next year, either draft or trade or free agency, whatever it is. So when I look at this running back room and I look at Bill, he's either going to have to run away with it this year, and he may still find more competition next year, or they're just going to go get somebody else. I have very little confidence that he's going to have much value after this year. And I would love to be wrong, because like I said, I'm invested in the guy. But for now, for me, he's a hold. Don't invest in him. And I would look to sell him when somebody comes calling. And we're moving on to tier 6. So tier 6, I have labeled this tier some points, but weeks worth almost nothing, which is appropriate for where we're at. You know, there are going to be weeks where Woody Marks, Tyler Algier, maybe Chris Rodriguez, Tajay Spears, these guys are going to get some points. For a flex week, if you just randomly rotated them in there, you're going to be kind of thrilled about that. But in general, these guys are kind of just roster cloggers. So we got Tyrone Tracy. Let me make sure I'm scrolled correctly. I got to come correct. Or not at all. That's what my wife says. All right. Tyrone Tracy last year, he had 740 yards rushing, 288 yards receiving. Modest. 26 years old. He is and was ceding work already to Cam Scadaboo. Now, and I would have predicted as much too. I was higher on Scadaboo than I think average people were, even though I still think he's got deficiencies in his game too, like smashing his head into people repeatedly. I mean, I guess that is kind of like the job, but so Tyrone Tracy has a little more upside in the pass catching side, which Scadaboo can do, but that's not really his bread and butter. So last year, Tracy had 48 targets. That is valuable. But based on his ability to catch the ball and Scadaboo's reckless running style, which caused him last year to miss 7 games, that's not going to happen every year. But I also don't think that. I think Scadaboo is very valuable in the short term, not the long term. I just don't think his career is going to go as long as maybe some others. And this is the kind of stuff I would have said about guys like Jay Ajayi or Tajay Spears for different reasons. They don't run like him. They don't run like their prefrontal cortex is the thing to beat. But their health concerns is what I'm saying. Things like bone on bone, that kind of stuff. Anything that can make a already shortened lifespan or career span shorter for that position. So for me, Tyrone Tracy he's just a bench conversation. I'm never going to want to stick him in there unless it's dire straits and maybe I get a little surprised. But he's a bench or a pass for me. And then we get to Isaiah Pacheco, who I used to also be higher on. But people think he's going to take over the David Montgomery role here with the Lions. So let's see what the data says, and then we can make a decision. I already made a decision. But it was challenged, and that's always good. You always want to get new data and challenge your decisions. Don't just dig in with gut feeling. So last year, David Montgomery's role for this team, which I think we all agree was just whatever Jahmyr Gibbs left him, was 716 yards and 8 touchdowns, which was pretty good. He was getting 4 yards per carry, and he was doing it on 9 rushing attempts per game. So that's going to be the metrics that we're comparing Pacheco with. So last year, the Chiefs also gave Pacheco about 9 rushing attempts per game. It was a lower 9 than Montgomery's, but not by a ton. And he got 462 yards and one touchdown. So that is, by any measure of numbers, that is less, which is not what we're looking for. He also got 3.9 yards per carry, and that's probably the more telling number. He was less efficient. So Pacheco will do better numbers with the Lions, is our supposed theory, because he's healthier. Maybe he was coming off an injury, and the Lions O-line is better, right? That's what we're thinking. We have to look for context, nuance, figure this out. So let's go to the Yahoo Sports, which I compared, but they'll do just fine. They ranked the 2025 O-line grades last year. The Chiefs, for them, were 10th. The Lions were 12th. Okay, so basically it looks like Montgomery was doing more with less. And that grading can also be debated, but I also didn't see anywhere where the Lions were above the Chiefs in line grading. If anything, I saw the Lions graded much lower in others. ESPN, who I've heard of, ranks the 2026 Lions O-line as 6th. So they have improved in theory. Maybe Pacheco will have better opportunity now, do better per yard carry with the Lions than he ever did with the Chiefs. It's possible. That is one way you could go with this. He's also had a ton of injuries, though. He fractured his fibula in 2024, his MCL in 25. He's had a rib injury, shoulder injury, concussion. So you just basically have to ask yourself in this tier, where it is a value tier, what do you believe? That Pacheco bounces back with a better O-line to be fantasy relevant, despite Jahmyr Gibbs getting the bulk of the touches? Or, at the ripe old age of 26 years old, has Pacheco already peaked? I mean, he isn't the same player after multiple injuries. His numbers have been dipping. Will he continue to be someone you never want to start in fantasy? That is my concern, and for me, that's why I'm saying get out. Get out if you can. Even if he starts the year off well, I'm not in on Isaiah Pacheco, and I would move on. Especially when in this tier system here, there is somebody that I like way more than both these guys, and I would take a huge swing on, and that is Tank Bigsby. So let's think about Tank Bigsby for a second, because he started off in Jacksonville, and there was already Travis Etienne, or Etienne, however you say his name, no disrespect. Then they drafted Bashal Tutin with a new coach. They drafted LaQuint Allen. So he never got that much run there, and he was instantly traded last year to Philly. Hooray! Go Birds. So they immediately decided they wanted to use him in the run game, which was stupid. Stupid. That was not the place for him. He did not do well, and they pulled him out of that situation, and then they just didn't know what to do with him. They had this good running back that they were never going to put on the field because you don't take Saquon Barkley off the field for any reason unless he's on fire, and then you just throw water on him and send him back out there. So, I mean, he could play with third-degree burns. Why wouldn't he be able to? He's Saquon Barkley. So it didn't really make any sense. And the case I'm going to build here for Tank, we could say it's thin. That's fine. I don't mind it. But I've watched the man play last year, and he's just good. He's just really good. So he was a treat, especially in a year when the offensive line was injured. The offense scheme, everything was not going well. It was a bad year for the Birds, and Tank would get in and rip off a run and look good. And he's a very different runner than Saquon. He doesn't do a lot of dancing. He's not going to jump over a man backwards, but he'll just gain yardage. He's fast, and he runs bigger than his size. So he's got a little bit of a Ferrari in a carport kind of situation going on here. I understand it, but let's take a look. So last year in particular, there was one game where something horrible happened on first down. They lost a ton of yardage. It was 2nd and 31, and the Eagles handed Tank the ball. 2nd and 31, and it was like a draw play. He picked it up. He outran people to the side, ran through people breaking tackles, picked up like 33 yards. He's got it. I'm telling you, he can be a lead back in this for somebody. So, and if you look at his yards per carry, 2023, it was 2.6. 2024, it was 4.6. Last year, 5.7. Like, the guy's got it. I don't know what to tell you. He's power. He's speed. He might not be an all-around back. He's not catching much. But he's a very, very good, very, very useful back in real life and in fantasy. So the Eagles just didn't use him enough. And that could be your case against him again this year. When will Saquon Barkley ever come off the field to make him valuable? Well, and also, it's a fair point to say, is he valuable here with a bad offensive line? But here's the case for that. They have a new OC, new scheme this year. Also, they have now some tape on Tank to see what he did last year. They would be stupid not to use him some. They're going to give him more opportunities, I believe. He was averaging 5.5 rushing attempts per game last year. And I'm going to, this is a mild endorsement. I'm going to say 7 to 10. That's not that many, but even 7 to 12, let's say, more than he had. That is the case for him with a healthy Saquon Barkley for being useful on your team. Now, on top of that, the Eagles' O-line was atrocious last year, mostly due to injury. A lot of them, Cam, Jurgens, Lane, a lot of them were injured, playing through injury, not doing well. So, assuming the line is healthy now, which they are, that is stated. A lot of them went to Wakanda and got stem cell something done. So they're healthy now. So Barkley is there, but Tank is a very useful handcuff who will get some points already every week this season, I believe. And if Barkley were to miss any time for any reason, he gets mono, there's a death in the family, maybe he pulls his whatever I don't want to even say it. So after that, he's a 10 to 20 point starter every single week. He's super valuable. He'll be the lead running back on the team with a great line that I think is going to do very well this year. And it's not even close because the backups behind Tank Bigsby are like Dameon Pierce, Will Shipley. Like, none of these guys are relevant or a threat. If they're taking any kind of handoffs away from Tank Bigsby, if he were the starter for any reason because of Barkley, it's just to get some water, man. He needs a Gatorade or something. They're never going to really become useful on their own, and they're not going to take away from him. If anything, it would just be the pass catching guy would come in as long as he can block on third down. So Tank Bigsby is sneaky value just sitting there. And maybe the guy in your league knows that. I don't know, because I've had a very hard time trying to wrestle him away from other people in other leagues. But he's definitely somebody in a dynasty league you should go after. He's only 24 years old. He's in the final year of his rookie deal. So even if Saquon Barkley stays completely healthy all through this year and takes up the majority of all the carries, and you go, damn it, Jeff, you were totally wrong about Tank. I don't know what's going to happen this offseason. What if he walks, goes to another team, ends up the starting in that committee or whatever, and has become super valuable for another team? He's still dynasty valuable at that point. So he's an ad for me. Then we got to drop down to tier 7. Let's get real deep into the woods. So this is what I call the group of no points likely without injury. And that just seems to be the case. So I'm going to try and pick it up a little here. Kamani Vidal, who I liked coming out, and then he found himself on the practice squad. He was worth nothing. But injury into the lineup showed he was good, showed he was valuable. But unfortunately, back you go. So not to the practice squad. They have seen the value in him, and they will keep him on the depth chart and maybe a little in the rotation, but he's not likely to get any points without injury because now there's some, well, let's put it this, I don't want to say better options, but Amarian Hampton is back. He is healthy. And they also brought in Keaton Mitchell. So unless Vidal somehow beats out Mitchell, which I don't think he will, then he's third. He's the third running back. So he's going to be situationally used, and that's about it. I wouldn't trust him in my lineup. He's just a good guy to have on my bench if you feel like that's, you like him that much. I personally feel like he's a hold that probably peaked already. Don't hold on to him for sentimental value. If you can move him to somebody else for anything, I probably would. He's 24 years old. He's a 6th-round draft pick. He did have good metrics. So, like I said, he dropped the practice squad last year. Two injuries got him on the field because Najee was also hurt. He got 643 yards, 3 touchdowns, 16 receptions. But like I said, I would hold him at best and try and unload him. Maybe somebody else will be a little more optimistic about him, and you can get like a wide receiver or something that you think has good upside. Marshawn Lloyd. Personally, I thought he was a lead running back coming into the league, but he's played 1 game in 2 years, 6 attempts for 15 yards. So not only is he never on the field, but when he was, and he probably wasn't even fully healthy then, it was 2.5 yards per carry. He's hurt his hamstring twice. He's had appendicitis, an ankle sprain. He's got soft tissue issues. He's 24 years old. He was a 3rd-round pick, but honestly, I think that's the only thing that gives him value at this point. I've also found him semi-difficult to get away from people. And I think it's just the value that they put into drafting him, either in real life or they did in their fantasy league, or specifically the fact now that there is a Josh Jacobs situation lingering out there, but we don't know how that's going to go or when something's going to happen from that. I would not put false value in Marshawn Lloyd based on what he's shown us so far. I mean, he is currently supposedly fully healthy, but if he was fully healthy and starting, would you trust him? If Josh Jacobs went away to jail or whatever, got cut tomorrow, would you trust a fully healthy Marshawn Lloyd going into your playoffs? I would not. I don't think the Packers trust him, and I think that they will work to replace him next year, no matter what he does this year. Even if he ends up being the starter and does 4 yards per carry, this is it for him. I think he's on the border of being a cut already. So I have no faith in him. I'm sorry. I wanted him to be something. He looked like he was going to be. It's not good so far. I'm out on him. Ray Davis. Make sure he's still on the screen. There we go. 26 years old. He's the same age as James Cook. Yeah, last year he had 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, 1 kickoff. So basically 0 rushing touchdowns is what I'm saying. He also competes with Ty Johnson, who's like 28 years old, I think, who had 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. So similar rushing yardage, less touchdowns than Ty Johnson. And Ty Johnson had more receptions than Davis. It's basically, Ray Davis is a decent running back, but there is a diminishing case for him in fantasy relevance, is what I'm saying. And that's sad too, because I liked him, but I don't think he's going to go to another team or something and suddenly pop off. He's not taking anything away from James Cook. He's not even really taking much from Ty Johnson, who's already proved himself. Both Davis and Johnson are at prime risk for a new running back next year. Not a high one, but like 4th round, 5th round, whatever. 6th round, somebody could just come in and start taking their lunch. Their lunch, not Cook's lunch. James Cook's just fine. He's not afraid of any of these guys. So, Ray Davis, I'm out. I'd look to get rid of him. Sean Tucker is another one. I'm sorry, I'm out. I love Sean Tucker. I thought he had lead back ability as well. You could make the same arguments for Tucker that you could for Davis, except the only exception here is we actually have seen a few flashes from Tucker. A couple games last year where he filled in, and he ended up with 320 yards, 8 touchdowns. There was a 3-touchdown game for him. He looked awesome. I think he did that on my bench. That was fun when he finally saw the field. But the situation hasn't really changed. You know, even after seeing all that and getting rid of Rashad White, which made sense to me, they brought in Kenneth Gainwell. And if Bucky Irving and Kenneth Gainwell are in a 50-50, that leaves mathematically nothing. That's just how numbers work for Sean Tucker. So I love Tuck, but there's never a spot for him. And I kind of feel like he's getting to the age now at this point where it's just never going to happen. You know, like even if he does get mild value more in the future, he's never going to be a guy you cut and wish you had back. If you had done it already, you would have looked at last year and went, oh, the 3-touchdown game. I was an idiot. But that was it, man. That was probably it for him. And that's sad because, like I said, I really liked him coming out of Syracuse. Dude was, I mean, he only dropped in the draft because of like heart condition or something. So he really had all the tools, the size, the speed. I really thought he was going to get a good shot somewhere. Last one in this particular category, which, what was it? The no points without injury category, is Seth McGowan, who, this is when I changed my tune on a little bit. And it's more the situation than the player, because we're going to go right from him into his competition. So Seth McGowan this year is, as a rookie, 7th round pick. He's already 25 years old. Why am I out of focus? What's going on, camera? Interesting. Oh, camera. I love tech. He's got good metrics, but he's a bit more of a hammer than he is like an all-around running back. So it made sense that he dropped where he did in the draft, but he's just not flashy. But he is effective. If you watch his tape, he will power forward every time, and he is in my opinion, a late dynasty add. You can get him for pretty good value at this point. Most of the case for Seth McGowan is built on two things. One, Jonathan Taylor was healthy last year, like the whole year, and that seems to be pretty rare. He usually misses a few games, so there will be some mild opportunity. And the chief competition for him is actually in the next tier, tier 8, which I call the desperation holds. And I hold one of these guys, actually both these guys. DJ Giddens. DJ Giddens is the presumed backup to Jonathan Taylor right now, based solely on the fact that he's already been with the team and that he was a 5th round. I don't have it written here, but I'm pretty sure I remember him being like a 5th round draft choice. Not high enough capital that like they feel the need to commit to him or whatever. So the difference between a 5th and a 7th is nothing in the Colts' eyes. They're obviously hoping neither one of them ever see the field. But for us, the problem here is, so DJ Giddens, we'll give him a plus. He is 3 years younger than Seth McGowan. He's 22. Youth is a value in Dynasty. In college, he was getting 6 yards per carry, which is not crazy. It's a lot, but it's not like, college numbers are always different than NFL numbers when it comes to that kind of stuff. So while it is high, it's like, okay, whatever. Because when you got to the NFL last year, his rookie season, he was getting 3.7 yards per carry with the Colts. No bueno. No bueno indeed. So especially when in that particular running back room, Jonathan Taylor was getting 4.3, which makes sense. He's better. And Amir Abdullah was getting 4.9. So you got two other guys making 4+ and him sub 4. Not a good look. And if you watch the tape, you see it. It wasn't just opportunities that came to him. He was just very ineffective. He has a very upright running style in general, which apparently is a knock on running backs, though I've seen it work before. It wasn't working last year. He did not look good. Not a fan. And I was a fan, so much so that I invested in him. But I am losing confidence rapidly on DJ Giddens. And when I first saw people starting to try and say, hey, Seth McGowan could take that number 2 spot from him for Jonathan Taylor, and maybe it's a little valuable because Taylor gets hurt sometimes, I kind of went, no, not my boy. Yes, my boy. My boy. He's hanging on by a thread. If you were a DJ Giddens dynasty owner, as I am, I would go get Seth McGowan for sure. Because 1, you can get him cheap, and 2, the value that DJ Giddens has could evaporate by the time I'm done with this sentence. I would hope it doesn't, but it's very possible. Now, in the long term, who cares about either one of them? Jonathan Taylor is the guy. Neither one of them are taking that from him. They could draft somebody next year. But for this year, I would probably much rather invest in Seth McGowan cheap, just as, someone on the bench with some potential for some points. Our last guy, and still in Tier 8, the desperation holds, is Jarquez Hunter. Holy mother of all things that are good. What the heck happened to Jarquez Hunter is the question. He suited up for 5 games last year. You know his stats? I bet you do if you own Jarquez Hunter in Dynasty. It's a donut. It's a big fat 0. He's got 0 stats from 5 games last year. Is that an indictment? That basically means that he put on his uniform and then sat pretty on the bench. That's about it. That's not great. Now, Blake Corum didn't get much of a look in his rookie year either. That's fair. He got opportunities. He had stats. That's something. But he didn't get much run. And I was big on Blake Corum too. Just to throw that out there. So you might go, well, this is how Sean McVay or the Rams operate. Maybe this year he'll break out. But the path isn't really there yet. Because, 1, Corum did have, I don't want to say a breakout, but a run where he showed his value. So you've got Kyron Williams, who they re-signed. So they're committed to him. Blake Corum, who's basically Kyron Williams 2.0. And they're going to get him in the mix. And maybe that is a 50-50 and there's nothing left. I don't know why there would need to be outside of that. That's good enough. Those two are both very good running backs. They don't need a third one to get into the mix here. My case for Hunter when they drafted him was twofold. 1, I like Kyron Williams, but I don't think he's got the long speed. He's more of a death by 1,000 cuts. He can get you first downs, but he's not going to rip off a 100-yard touchdown very often. Blake Corum is a little bit the same. I like his running style a little better. He follows blocks very well and picks up extra yards, and he's a bit of a bowling ball to contend with as well. But Jarquez Hunter had more speed. He had more breakout long speed potential, so maybe he wasn't as effective in the short range, but in the long range for picking up things. So my case was they were picking up Hunter to help complement the guys they have now with some home run potential, some long distance runs. But there's now no room for him. There's no stats. There's no credibility or history built on anything with him. Like I said, they re-signed Williams, which would have also helped his ability to stick around and contribute here. And the other case that was for him, though, was he was a 4th-round pick they traded up for. So they had interest in him. They didn't get him for nothing, is my point. But they're not using him. They haven't used him. And if he doesn't flash in camp, he's just going to be riding pine, waiting for another opportunity that has not yet materialized. So I am not high on Jarquez Hunter. Most people are telling you, dump him, get rid of him. He's never going to be a thing. And that makes sense in my brain. There's no role here. There's no real reason to pump him up. But I'm calling him a hold. I've seen people dump him in other leagues for all the reasons, and then I just pick him up for free. I just sometimes feel like some players, if you have conviction, and I do in him, I'm going to hold him if I have him. If someone drops him, I'm going to grab him and just stick him on my bench. I still think the talent is there and that the talent can rise to the top at some point. It doesn't seem likely this year. But he's the kind of player who can pop, and if somebody else gets him and something falls just the right way, I don't know what, a random trade, suddenly he's relevant, whatever. Next year, he gets more opportunities. I want to have Jarquez Hunter on my bench waiting to go. I don't want to be watching somebody else with him and feel, you know what? I knew he was good, but I just couldn't rationalize it, so I let him go. So, especially down here in Tier 8, I can make a better case to keep him, I think, Jarquez Hunter, than DJ Giddens. And a lot of these other guys in Tier 8 already kind of evaporated. Rashad Smith had potential. No, not anymore. I mean, never mind Kenneth Walker coming in. I think Emmett, was it Johnson? Better than him automatically. Jerome Ford, crowded backfield, not even in contention. Isaiah Davis, doesn't seem like it. Jordan James maybe has a little potential. Kalen Black, little potential. I mean, a lot of these guys that are rookies, I shouldn't even get into because you just don't know. But I mean, look at the bottom here. We've got Ty Johnson. You know, what was my case for him earlier? He had a couple touchdowns. Are you playing him on those weeks? You don't know. You don't know. Audric Estime, dead. Isaac Garendo, dead. All these poor bastards. Who knows what's up with Joe Mixon? My God, I want Joe Mixon to appear. I need him to explain himself. What is up with that foot, dude? What are you doing? All right. Anyway, so that's the running back tiers today. If you feel completely different, please let me know. I would love to know your thoughts as well. Who am I missing that's on the fringe? There are a lot of guys on the fringe. Kareem Hunt was one of those dudes kind of always perpetually on the fringe. Relevant and then not. He could help you win. He could win you a week and then he could disappear. And it's a tough area to navigate. So for me, I love to get everybody's thoughts. That's why I watch videos like this, to try and figure out, what do I think based on what they said? Is their argument sound? Is it stupid? What's my gut still saying? Anyway, I don't have any something borrowed today. I do have something to look forward to, which is NFL camps for some teams start July 22nd. For others, they start, I think, on the 28th or so. But depending on their situation, it can start the 22nd. So hopefully we get some new news from around the league that is not sadness. That's kind of been the theme of this summer. What with people losing limbs and beating people and getting charged with kidnapping and all that. It's not been great times. For me, I will not be in next Thursday for the live stream. I will be with my family, enjoying ourselves for the summer. I got something for the summer. But then I'll be back the next week. So Thursday live stream continues. So thanks for joining me today, guys. I don't have another video planned anytime soon. So I just had the weirdest jobs in the NFL video dropped earlier in the week. So if you haven't seen that, go watch that. Leave a comment, subscribe, like all that things YouTubers say that makes me die slowly inside every time I say. But I do appreciate you joining me here today. Thanks for checking in with me. It's always fun to hear from you, so drop a comment. And we will be back in 2 weeks, live stream again, 11 a.m., as long as everything is still working, unlike this morning where everything broke suddenly. And have a good time. Say hi to your mom for me. Peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.